your host, Chloe, and welcome to Whispers of Southern Ohio. In the deep hollows and along the winding rivers of this ancient land, some stories never fade. They cling to the mist, they're told in hushed tones on front porches, and they become part of the very soil we walk on. Tonight, we're delving into one of the most curious tales in Ohio's rich folklore. And to guide us through these shadowed waters, I'm joined by author and podcaster Mark H. Rowe. Mark has spent years exploring the strange, the unexplained, and the paranormal mysteries of Appalachia. Mark, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Chloe. The stories from this part of the country, they have a life of their own. It's an honor to be the one to help share them.
I couldn't agree more. There's a certain weight to them, a sense of history that you don't find just anywhere.
Exactly. You can feel it. It's in the air, in the hills themselves.
Imagine this, a late spring night just outside the small town of Loveland, Ohio. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth and the sound of the Little Miami River. A car's headlights cut through the darkness on a lonely stretch of road, and then something steps into the beam. It's not a deer, it's not a person. It's 3, maybe 4 feet tall. Its skin is leathery, its face frog-like, and it's staring right back.
And in one hand, it's holding something that sparks like a welder's torch before it vanishes back into the shadows by the river. That's where our story begins.
Mark, that image is so specific and so chilling. For our listeners who might not be familiar, could you set the scene for us? What or who is the Loveland Frogman?
The Loveland Frogman is one of Ohio's most enduring pieces of cryptid folklore. It's a legend about one or more humanoid frogs, as you described, seen in and around Loveland, Ohio. It's not your typical Bigfoot sighting. It's stranger, more specific.
Right. It's not just a large, blurry shape in the woods. It has these very distinct features.
Exactly. Leathery skin, webbed hands and feet, and that distinctly frog-like face, but it stands on 2 legs, like a man. The core of the legend is really built around 2 key sets of sightings, decades apart.
Let's go back to the beginning then. Where and when did that first modern sighting happen, the one you hinted at in the opening?
The story really enters the public consciousness in May of 1955. A businessman, who some sources name as Robert Honeycutt, was driving along a quiet road near the river around 3:30 in the morning.
3:30 in the morning is always the time for strange encounters, isn't it?
It certainly is. The witching hour is over, but the world isn't quite awake yet. He claimed to see 3 figures by the side of the road, huddled together. As he got closer, his headlights illuminated them. He described them as being about 3.5 feet tall, bipedal, with wrinkled, leathery skin, and they had frog faces.
And the wand, the sparking object?
Yes, he said one of them held up a gray, metal, wand-like device that shot a shower of sparks into the air. He also reported a distinct smell, like alfalfa and almonds. He watched them for a few minutes, completely stunned, before one of them seemed to notice his car. They all then scrambled off the road and disappeared.
The detail of the smell is fascinating. It adds a layer of sensory detail that makes it feel more real somehow.
It does. It's often these small, seemingly trivial details that lend credibility, or at least staying power, to a story like this. It's not just what you see, but what you smell, what you hear. It paints a complete and very strange picture.
And what about the wand? A sparking, metallic object feels so out of place with a creature that seems, for lack of a better word, natural. It's not just a strange animal. That detail adds a whole other layer of high strangeness. So this businessman has this incredible encounter in 1955. What happened after that? Did the story just go dormant for a while?
It did, for 17 years, in fact. It became a piece of local legend, a weird story told late at night, but there were no more official reports. It was just a strange, isolated incident. Then came March of 1972.
Okay, so that's a significant gap in time. What brought the creature or creatures back into the spotlight in 72?
This is where the story gets really interesting, because the witnesses weren't just passing motorists, they were police officers. On March 3, 1972, again in the very early hours of the morning, Officer Ray Shockey was driving into Loveland when he saw what he first thought was a dog on the side of the road. The road was icy, so he was driving slowly. As his headlights hit it, the dog stood up on two legs. It was crouched, and then it stood fully upright. It looked directly at him, its eyes glowing in the headlights, and then it scrambled over the guardrail and down the embankment toward the river.
Wow, a police officer. That gives the story a whole new level of credibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Police officers are trained observers. They're meant to be reliable witnesses. Shockey described it as being 3 to 4 feet tall, about 50 to 75 pounds, with leathery skin and, again, a frog-like face. He went back to the station and told his fellow officer, Mark Johnson. They went back to the scene together and saw scrape marks on the guardrail where the creature had gone over.
So this wasn't just a fleeting glance. He was confident in what he saw.
He was, and the story doesn't even end there. 2 weeks later, that same officer, Mark Johnson, had his own encounter.
No way. The other officer?
The very one. He was driving near the same area when he saw an animal lying in the middle of the road. Fearing it was an injured animal or even a person, he got out of his car to investigate. As he approached, it suddenly stood up in a crouch. It was the same creature. Johnson drew his weapon and fired, and the creature hobbled off, climbed the guardrail, and disappeared just as it had for Officer Shockey.
He actually shot at it? Did he hit it?
He believed he missed. Later, he would say he wasn't shooting to kill, just to stop it or get a better look. His description matched Shockey's almost perfectly. Now here's where the story takes a fascinating twist. Years later, Johnson supposedly recanted his story.
Oh, what did he say?
He claimed it was just a large iguana or a similar reptile that had lost its tail. He said the media frenzy after the sighting was overwhelming and that he and Shockey had been ridiculed. So he said he made up the iguana story to get people to leave him alone. But then in other interviews, he seems to stick by the original stranger account. So there's this layer of confusion and contradiction that only adds to the mystery.
So we don't really know what he truly believed in the end. A large iguana missing its tail. That's quite a specific and, frankly, less exciting explanation.
Right, and how does an iguana get to be 4 feet tall when standing up? And what about Officer Shockey's sighting? He never recanted. It makes you wonder if the recantation was a product of social pressure rather than a reevaluation of the evidence.
It's easy to imagine the kind of ridicule they would have faced. A story about a frogman is a tough thing to report with a straight face, even for law enforcement.
It is, and that's often a key element in these paranormal or cryptid cases. The stigma attached to reporting something so far outside our normal frame of reference is immense. Many potential sightings probably go unreported for that very reason.
So after the 1972 sightings and the subsequent confusion, did the frogman retreat into the shadows again?
For a very long time, yes. Decades, in fact. The story became a beloved local legend. There was a musical made about it. It became a sort of unofficial town mascot. It was more of a fun, quirky piece of local history than an active paranormal case, until 2016.
And this is where things get really modern, isn't it? This sighting involved video games?
It did. In August of 2016, during the height of the Pokemon Go craze, a teenager named Sam Jacobs and his girlfriend were playing the game near Lake Isabella, which is very close to Loveland.
Right, I remember that. Everyone was walking around staring at their phones.
Exactly. He saw something strange move in the darkness near the water. He pulled out his phone, not to play the game, but to record. He captured a short video and took a few pictures of a dark shape with what appeared to be glowing eyes. He claimed it was a giant frog that stood up and then disappeared into the water.
And he got it on video? What did the footage show?
It showed something. It's a dark, indistinct shape. You can make out two large, glowing circles that look like eyes. It's very ambiguous. A local news station interviewed Sam, and he seemed genuinely spooked by the encounter. He insisted it was the Loveland Frogman.
But in the age of digital media, there's always a catch, isn't there?
There often is. Shortly after the news story aired, a friend of Sam's came forward and said it was all a hoax. He claimed they had created the Frogman by putting a frog costume on a remote-controlled device. The video's creator, Sam, denied it was a prank. So, just like the 1972 sighting, we're left with a claim and a counterclaim, and the truth remains murky.
So, what does all this mean? We have these three distinct clusters of sightings, 1955, 1972, and 2016. What's the leading theory? Is it a misidentified animal, a persistent hoax, or something else entirely?
Well, the skeptical and most plausible explanation is misidentification. Some have suggested it could be a large, tailless reptile, like Officer Johnson eventually claimed, or perhaps a large species of frog or salamander seen in a strange posture. The darkness and the shock of the moment can play tricks on the mind.
Right. The brain tries to fill in the gaps with something it can recognize, even if it's fantastical.
Precisely. The hoax theory is also strong, especially for the 2016 sighting. For the earlier ones, it's harder to say. But then you have the more paranormal or cryptozoological theories. Some suggest it could be an undiscovered species of amphibious humanoid. Others point to Native American legends of water spirits or similar creatures that have inhabited these lands for centuries.
I was going to ask about that. Are there older stories from that region that sound similar to the Frogman?
There are. While not a one-to-one match, many tribal traditions, particularly the Shawnee who were prominent in this region, speak of powerful beings that reside in rivers and lakes. These aren't necessarily frogmen, but they are often described as shapeshifters or powerful non-human entities tied to specific waterways. It's possible the frogman is a modern interpretation of a much, much older folk memory.
That adds such a fascinating layer to it. It stops being just a quirky 20th century story and becomes part of a much longer, deeper tradition.
It really does. It ties the story to the land itself, making it more than just a random anomaly. It suggests that people in this area have been seeing something strange by the river for a very long time.
So, stepping back from the specific sightings, Mark, why do you think this particular story has had such staying power in southern Ohio? What does the Loveland Frogman represent to the community?
I think it's a perfect blend of the familiar and the utterly bizarre. A frog is a common creature. A man is a common creature, but a frog man is just strange enough to be captivating. It's not as terrifying as Mothman or as elusive as Bigfoot. There's an almost whimsical quality to it, despite the eerie encounters.
Whimsical. That's a great word for it. It feels less like a monster and more like a strange neighbor.
Exactly. It has become a part of Loveland's identity. It's on murals, it's the subject of local plays, it's a local mascot, a boogeyman, and a source of civic pride all rolled into one. It represents the idea that even in our modern, well-mapped world, there are still pockets of mystery right in our own backyards. You don't have to go to the Amazon rainforest to find the unknown. It might be down by the Little Miami River.
That's a powerful idea, especially in a region like southern Ohio with such a rich history of folklore and superstition.
Appalachian culture, which heavily influences southern Ohio, has a long tradition of haint tales, stories of strange creatures and spirits in the woods. The Loveland Frogman fits beautifully into that tapestry. It's a story that feels like it belongs here. It speaks to a respect for and a healthy fear of the natural world and the secrets it might hold.
So, whether it's real or not, its cultural reality is undeniable. The story itself has become a living thing.
That's the heart of it. The power of folklore isn't in proving whether the monster is real, it's in understanding what the story tells us about ourselves, our fears, our sense of wonder, and a connection to a specific place. The Loveland Frogman tells us that southern Ohio is a place where magic and mystery can still bubble up from the riverbank on a dark night, and that's a story worth preserving.
Beyond the Frogman, southern Ohio seems to be a hotbed for this kind of folklore. It makes you wonder what else is lurking in the shadows. Are there other local legends or cryptids that share a similar kind of strange neighbor status? Or is the Frogman unique in its quirkiness?
That's an excellent question. While the Frogman is certainly one of a kind, the Ohio River Valley as a whole is rich with high strangeness. Just across the river in West Virginia, you have the legendary Mothman of Point Pleasant, a terrifying, winged harbinger of doom. Here in Ohio, there are tales of the Ohio Grassman, our own regional variant of Bigfoot. But what sets the Frogman apart is its character. The Grassman and Mothman are fearsome, almost monstrous figures. The Frogman, on the other hand, is almost polite. It observes, holds its strange, sparkling wand, and then slips back into the river. It feels less like a monster and more like a visitor from another world who just happens to look like a frog.
So the nature of the cryptid really defines the town's relationship with it. Point Pleasant has a statue of Mothman, but it's a monument to a tragedy. Loveland has embraced the Frogman with a sense of fun and local pride.
Thank you for joining me on Whispers of Southern Ohio. If you'd like to explore more of my work, you can follow me on my Amazon author page at amazon.com/author/Mark H. Rowe, and visit me at markhrowe.com for more stories, books, and updates. Until next time, keep your lantern close and your curiosity closer.